This is a video from eSkills Zone. For more videos, notes, and certificates, please visit www.eskillszone.com.
Hello and welcome. Hi viewers. Today in this video we'll discuss writing to a file topic in file handling section. First we discuss the opening a file. Now we'll discuss today the writing to a file. Now let's start. Writing to a file that has been previously opened in output mode is accomplished using the write hash statement. The write hash statement works much like the print statement. Except instead of sending output to the screen, the write hash statement will send data to the open file. Another difference is that when using the write hash statement, we must first indicate the buffer number of the file being written to. For example, consider the following write hash statement. Write hash 1, name, address, phone. The above statement would write the data contained in the name, address, and phone variables to the file using buffer number 1. The write hash statement usually only transfers the data into buffer once primary location, primary storage location, the transfer from primary memory to secondary memory actually occurs when closing the file, which is covered further in the article. Now we'll discuss reading to a file. Reading from a file. So there's a difference. When you're writing to a file, but when you're reading, you're actually reading from a file. Let's start. Reading data from a file that has been previously opened in as input is accomplished using the input hash statement. The input hash statement is similar to the input statement, except instead of reading user data, input from the keyboard. The input hash statement reads data input from a file on disk. For example, consider the following: input hash 1. Likewise, the right statement works. Input hash 1 comma name of the student, file name, student name, it's a variable, GPA, comma grade. The above statement would take values associated with the file with buffer number 1 and assign the values to each of the specified variables in the statement one value at a time. It is important to note that the input hash statement reads data from the record that is currently being pointed to by the file position pointer. After the input hash statement is executed, the file position pointer will be incremented to the next record in the file, and then the process is repeated if trying to read more data in the file. It is also important to realize that there is an end of file EOF character at the end of every file. This allows the program accessing the file to recognize when there is no more data left in the file. The end of file character comes in handy when reading data from a file, because it will let us know when all data has been read. The function EOF that is used to check for the end of a file during the reading process. The EOF function will return a value to false 0 if there are more records in the file, or it will return a value of true 1 if the end of file has been encountered. Therefore, the EOF function is actually evaluated like a Boolean expression. The argument sent into the EOF function will be the buffer number of the file being accomplished, being manipulated. Because the EOF function is a Boolean expression that returns a value of true or false. It is an efficient way of controlling the execution of a loop during reading data from a file. For example, consider following. Line number 10 will type while, not EOF. Line 20, input hash 1, commas to name, GPA, grade. Line 30, print student, colon, double quotes close, semicolon, stu name, semicolon, SPC, used for spacing 5, argument passed, semicolon for spacing, GPA, semicolon, SPC 5 again, semicolon, grade. Line number 40, again while statement is used. So the above code would read all data and records contained in the file with buffer number 1 and print the data for each record until the end of file. Marker is reached. If we want to access and point data sequentially, access and print data contained in a particular record in a file, we would have to read in but not print all the records preceding the target record. This can be accomplished by creating a dummy variable to keep track of how many records have been read from the file until the record we are trying to access is the next record to be read. This is time consuming. We reach to desired record, inefficient, and a better solution to this problem would be to use a random access method file. We dive into the details of random access later. So viewers, that's all. We discussed the reading from a file today in detail. Very important topic. First we discuss the writing to a file and then reading from a file. Writing to a file is used to send the data to the open file. Very important line. And the write hash is the reserved statement which is used and perform the same operation write statement does. Like the reading from a file is the process, like the input statement is accomplished using the input statement. So the input statement is similar to the input statement except of reading the user data input from the keyboard. The input statement reads data input from a file on the disk. So there's a difference. I'm going to highlight it. So this is the input hash 1. Hash 1 is the buffer number. Store name, GPA grade are the variable names, whereas input is the keyword. Reserved word statement used to perform reading from a file. So this is an example. So it will actually read all the records contained in the file with the buffer number 1. So this is the buffer number 1 used with input statement and print the data for each record until the end of file marker is reached. If you want to access and point data, sequentially access and print data contained in a particular record in the file, we would have to read in but not print all the records preceding to the target record. This can be accomplished by using a dummy variable to keep track of how many records have been read from the file until the record we are trying to access in the next record to be read. So we can execute this program in our next video and we'll see how does it perform its functionality for reading from a file by using the input statement. That's all. Thanks for watching.